Something is happening that nobody's talking about. The conditions that allowed Sigma males to exist and thrive are disappearing. And if current trends continue, the next generation won't produce men like this at all. This isn't theory. This is measurable reality. And it should concern you. I'm going to explain why authentic Sigma males are becoming increasingly rare, and why the trajectory we're on suggests they might disappear entirely within a generation or two. This isn't about alpha versus beta dynamics. This is about fundamental changes in how society is structured that make the Sigma male archetype nearly impossible to develop. The reasons are environmental, cultural, technological, and economic. And understanding them will help you see why men who operate like genuine Sigmas are becoming harder and harder to find. Let's break down what's actually happening. Reason 1. Constant connectivity destroys the solitude that creates Sigmas. Sigma males are forged in solitude. Extended periods of being alone, processing thoughts independently, developing ideas without external input. This is where the Sigma mind develops its characteristic depth, independence, and original thinking. But look at what's happened to solitude in the last 15 years. Smartphones put the entire social world in your pocket. You're never truly alone anymore because you're always one tap away from connection, distraction, validation. Even when you're physically alone, you're mentally connected to hundreds of people through social media, messaging apps, email, notifications. Kids growing up today have never experienced genuine solitude. From childhood, they're plugged into constant social feedback. Every thought can be immediately shared and validated. Every moment of boredom can be filled with entertainment. Every question can be instantly answered by searching online. This eliminates the conditions that create Sigma males, the long stretches of uninterrupted thinking that allow you to develop your own perspectives. The boredom that forces creative problem solving. The solitude that teaches you to be comfortable with yourself. When I talk to younger guys who identify as Sigma males, most of them can't go 30 minutes without checking their phone. They've never spent a full day completely alone without digital connection. They've never had to sit with their thoughts for hours with nothing to distract them, but that's exactly the experience that creates the Sigma mindset. Learning to process the world internally, developing the ability to entertain yourself with your own thoughts, building comfort with extended solitude. Without access to genuine solitude, you can't develop genuine independence. You end up with people who are performatively independent while remaining fundamentally dependent on constant digital connection and social validation. The technology that connects us is also destroying the solitude that creates the kind of independent thinking that defines Sigma males. And there's no indication this trend will reverse. Reason 2. Modern education systems eliminate non-conformist thinking. Sigma males typically think differently. They question assumptions, see patterns others miss, reach conclusions through unconventional reasoning. This isn't arrogance. It's just how their minds work. But modern education systems are increasingly hostile to this kind of thinking. Everything is standardized. Standardized tests with one correct answer. Standardized curricula that everyone follows. Standardized methods that everyone must use. The entire system is designed to produce conformity, not independent thinking. Kids who think differently, who question the standard approach, who want to explore ideas outside the curriculum, are labeled as problems. They're diagnosed with attention disorders. They're medicated to make them compliant. They're punished for not following the prescribed method, even if they reach the correct answer through different reasoning. I've talked to teachers who've been in the system for decades, and they all say the same thing. There's less and less tolerance for students who don't fit the mold. The pressure is to get everyone to the same place using the same methods, not to nurture individual thinking styles. This is devastating for potential Sigma males. The education system encounters these kids early and spends 12 years training the independence out of them, rewarding conformity, punishing deviation, teaching them that success means following instructions rather than thinking for themselves. By the time they're adults, that independent thinking capacity has been systematically suppressed. They've learned that the correct answer is whatever the authority figure says it is. That thinking differently makes you a problem. That success means compliance. You can't develop Sigma males in a system designed to eliminate nonconformist thinking. And education has moved dramatically in that direction over the last 20 years. Reason 3. The economic system now requires constant networking. Previous generations could build wealth and success through pure competence. Be good at what you do, produce quality work, and economic opportunity followed. This allowed Sigma males to succeed on their own terms without requiring extensive social networking. But the modern economy has shifted away from this model dramatically. Now, it's not enough to be competent. You have to market yourself constantly. Build your personal brand. Network relentlessly. Maintain an active social media presence. Attend conferences and events. Play the relationship game. Jobs aren't posted publicly anymore. They're filled through networks before anyone outside the network even knows they exist. Opportunities come through connections, not competence. Success requires being visible, social, and constantly self-promoting. This is a fundamental mismatch with the Sigma operating system. Sigmas succeed through competence, not connections. They'd rather develop skills than develop networks. They'd rather do excellent work than market mediocre work effectively. But the economy increasingly rewards the opposite approach. Someone with average skills but great networking will out-earn someone with exceptional skills but no network. Social capital has become more valuable than actual capital. I watch young Sigma types struggle with this constantly. They're highly competent but terrible at self-promotion. They produce excellent work, but no one knows about it because they won't play the visibility game. They have valuable skills, but can't monetize them because they refuse to do the networking required. And the economic pressure to conform to this model is intense. If you don't network, you don't advance. If you don't self-promote, you don't get opportunities. If you don't play the social game, you get left behind economically. So even naturally independent people are being forced to adopt extroverted networking behaviors just to survive economically. The system is selecting against Sigma traits by making them economically disadvantageous. Reason 4. Dating apps have eliminated Sigma male romantic advantages. This one is more specific, but equally important. Sigma males historically had success with women through in-person presence, genuine connection, and demonstrated competence. Women would meet them in real contexts, experience their calm confidence, and be attracted to qualities that aren't immediately obvious. Dating apps have completely changed this dynamic. Now, romantic selection happens through photos and brief text profiles. The entire interaction is optimized for alpha male traits: physical attractiveness, social proof through photos with groups, extroverted personality signals, aggressive pursuit behaviors. Sigma males don't photograph well in a dating app context. Their strength is presence, which doesn't translate to photos. Their appeal is subtle, which doesn't work in swipe-based selection. Their approach is patient, which loses to aggressive pursuers. And since dating apps are now the primary way young people meet romantic partners, Sigma males are being systematically filtered out of the mating pool before they even get a chance to demonstrate their actual value. This has a generational effect. If Sigma males are less successful at reproducing and personality traits have genetic components, you'll see fewer Sigma males in the next generation. Natural selection is working against them through dating app algorithms. The guys I know who fit the Sigma profile universally struggle with dating apps. They do much better meeting people in person where their actual qualities can be experienced. But in-person meeting is becoming increasingly rare, especially among younger generations who primarily use apps. This means Sigma males are either forced to adapt to alpha-style dating strategies, which goes against their nature, or they end up alone, which removes them from the reproductive pool. Either way, authentic Sigma traits are being selected against. Reason 5. Social media makes privacy impossible. Sigma males value privacy intensely. Not because they have things to hide, but because they maintain clear boundaries between public and private life. They share selectively, reveal strategically, and keep most of their internal world private. But social media culture has made privacy nearly impossible and social unacceptable. If you're not sharing your life constantly, people assume something is wrong with you. If you don't have photos documenting your experiences, those experiences somehow count less. If you maintain privacy about personal matters, people interpret it as secretiveness or antisocial behavior. The social expectation now is total transparency. Document everything, share everything. Make your entire life public content. And people who resist this expectation are viewed with suspicion. This creates enormous pressure to abandon privacy, even when it goes against your nature. Young people growing up in this environment don't even develop a sense of privacy as normal. They're conditioned from childhood to make everything public, to seek validation through sharing, to measure experiences by how they'll look on social media. Sigma males who maintain privacy are increasingly seen as weird, suspicious, or antisocial. Why don't you post anything? Why don't you share more about your life? What are you hiding? The questions come with judgment and social pressure. And for younger people, the social cost of privacy is high enough that most aren't willing to pay it. They'd rather conform to transparency expectations than face the social consequences of privacy. This eliminates one of the core Sigma traits. You can't have genuine Sigma males in a culture where privacy is viewed as abnormal and maintaining boundaries is viewed as antisocial. Reason 6. Urbanization forces constant social interaction. Historically, there were environments where Sigma males could thrive. Rural areas, small towns, frontier settings. Places where you could maintain independence, have significant physical space, and interact with others on your own terms rather than constantly. But global urbanization is eliminating these environments. More people live in cities now than ever before in human history. And that percentage increases every year. Cities require constant navigation of social spaces, adherence to social norms, and interaction with large numbers of people. You can't maintain the same level of independence in an urban environment. You're surrounded by people constantly. Every action requires social coordination. You're subject to community rules, building regulations, noise ordinances, social expectations from neighbors. The physical and social environments that allowed Sigma males to operate naturally are disappearing. There's less frontier, fewer rural areas where people want to live, smaller communities. Everything is consolidating into large urban centers. And urban environments select against Sigma traits. They reward social skills, punish non-conformity, and make independence difficult. You can't just do your own thing when you're sharing walls with neighbors who will complain about noise. You can't maintain extensive privacy when you're living in apartment buildings with shared spaces. Young people growing up in urban environments are being shaped by those environments. They're learning to be socially compliant because the urban environment requires it. They're developing extroverted behaviors because cities reward them. They're abandoning independence because cities make independence impractical. The environmental conditions that produce sigma males are literally disappearing from the map. Reason 7. Masculinity itself is being redefined away from sigma traits. This is the cultural component, and it might be the most significant. Society is actively redefining what acceptable masculinity looks like, and the new definitions are hostile to sigma traits. Emotional independence is being reframed as toxic stoicism. Not relying on others is being called unhealthy self-reliance. Maintaining boundaries is being labeled as emotional unavailability. Spending time alone is being pathologized as antisocial behavior. The traits that define sigma males are being systematically redefined as problematic manifestations of toxic masculinity. Meanwhile, the masculine traits being promoted are fundamentally incompatible with sigma nature. Constant emotional expression, heavy reliance on social support, extensive sharing of feelings, group processing of problems, collaborative approaches to everything. Boys growing up now are being taught that traditional masculine independence is unhealthy, that needing others is strength, not weakness, that solitary problem solving is harmful, not capable, that emotional self-sufficiency is toxic, not resilient. This cultural messaging is powerful, especially for young people who are still forming their identities. They're being taught that the characteristics that would make them sigma males are actually character flaws that need to be corrected. So even kids who have natural sigma tendencies are being socialized away from them. They're learning to suppress their independence, question their self-sufficiency, and adopt more socially acceptable masculine expressions. The culture is actively working against the development of sigma males by defining their core traits as problematic. What makes this situation alarming isn't any single factor. It's that all these factors are working together and reinforcing each other. Technology eliminates solitude, while social media eliminates privacy. Education systems suppress independent thinking, while economic systems punish nonconformity. Dating dynamics select against sigma traits, while cultural redefinitions label those traits as toxic. Urbanization removes the physical environments where sigmas could thrive, while social pressure forces conformity in the remaining spaces. Each factor makes it harder to develop and maintain authentic sigma traits. And together, they create an environment where genuine sigma males are becoming nearly impossible to produce. The sigma males who exist now mostly developed in different conditions. They grew up before smartphones, before social media dominance, before dating apps, before this level of urbanization and social pressure. They formed their personalities in an environment that, while never ideal for their type, at least allowed space for them to exist. But that environment no longer exists for young people. And the environment they're growing up in is actively hostile to developing sigma characteristics. If these trends continue, and there's no indication they won't, we're looking at a future where authentic sigma males are essentially extinct. You'll still have people who identify with the label, guys who read about sigma males online and think it sounds cool. But they won't have the actual underlying psychology because they were never exposed to the conditions that create that psychology. You'll have fake sigmas performing what they think sigma behavior looks like. But you won't have real sigmas who developed that way naturally through extended solitude, independent thinking, genuine self-sufficiency, and comfort with their own company. The archetype will become a cultural memory rather than a lived reality, something that existed in previous generations but doesn't exist anymore because the environmental and social conditions that produced it no longer exist. And society will lose something valuable in the process. Sigma males serve important functions. They're the ones who think independently when everyone else is following the crowd. They're the ones who maintain perspective when everyone else is caught up in social drama. They're the ones who build things quietly while everyone else is performing publicly. Without them, society becomes more conformist, more groupthink-oriented, more dependent on social validation. The diversity of masculine expressions narrows. The range of acceptable ways to be a man shrinks. Can this be reversed? The honest answer is probably not. The forces driving this change are too large, too interconnected, and too economically and technologically embedded to reverse. 2. You'd need to fundamentally restructure education systems, reverse urbanization trends, eliminate dating apps, convince people to abandon smartphones and social media, and change cultural attitudes about masculinity. None of these things are likely to happen. What you might see instead is small pockets of resistance. Families that deliberately raise their kids with limited technology, extensive solitude, and education outside the standard system. Communities that preserve space for independence and non-conformity. Subcultures that maintain traditional Sigma values. But these will be exceptions in an increasingly homogeneous culture that doesn't produce Sigma males naturally anymore. If you're a Sigma male now, you're part of a dying breed. Not because there's anything wrong with you, but because the world has changed in ways that make your type increasingly impossible to produce. If you recognize yourself as a genuine Sigma male operating in this hostile environment, what should you do? First, recognize that many of your struggles aren't personal failures. They're the result of operating in a system designed for different personality types. The economic pressure to network constantly, the social pressure to share everything, the cultural messaging that your traits are toxic. None of that reflects actual problems with how you operate. Second, find or create environments where your traits are advantages rather than liabilities. This might mean specific career paths that reward competence over networking. Specific geographic locations that allow more independence. Specific social contexts where depth is valued over breadth. Third, accept that you'll always be swimming against the current. The environment won't change to accommodate you. You'll have to work harder to maintain your nature in a system that's hostile to it. Fourth, connect with other authentic Sigma males when you find them. They're rare, but they exist. And having even a few people who understand your operating system makes the isolation less total. Fifth, consider whether there are ways to preserve space for the next generation. If you have kids, can you raise them with access to genuine solitude? Can you limit their technology exposure? Can you teach them to think independently even when the education system tries to train it out of them? The battle to preserve authentic Sigma males in modern society is largely a losing one. But individual Sigma males can still thrive if they understand what they're up against and make strategic choices about how to navigate a hostile environment. The extinction of Sigma males isn't happening because they're inferior or outdated. It's happening because the environmental and social conditions that produce them are disappearing. And once those conditions are gone, you can't create new Sigma males, no matter how attractive the archetype seems. This should concern anyone who values diversity in masculine expression, independent thinking, and genuine nonconformity. Because losing Sigma males means losing one of the few personality types that operates outside the social validation system. But concern won't reverse the trend. The forces involved are too large and too deeply embedded in modern life. What we're witnessing is likely the end of an era, not just a temporary setback. If you're an authentic Sigma male, appreciate that you're part of something that probably won't exist much longer, and use that awareness to live intentionally rather than taking your nature for granted. If you're a younger Sigma male struggling in this environment, or an older one watching these changes happen, drop a comment with the word extinct and share which factor you think is most destructive to developing authentic Sigma males. And if you want more honest analysis about masculinity, culture, and what's actually happening to male development in modern society, hit that subscribe button. I tackle these uncomfortable truths every week. Until next time, stay authentic even when the environment is hostile to authenticity.